I was initially supposed to do a top 10, but there was so much great stuff that came out last year that I decided to expand this into a top 15, then a top 20, and finally a top 24. Welcome back to Metal Planet, I am Max Gray. This video is the first part of a series of 4 videos that are going to be released in January, in which I'm going to present the top heavy metal and hard rock albums of 2024. I really took my time to listen and digest the releases from last year, and it was hard to narrow down the selection, but I am pleased with the final list. As you're gonna see, there's going to be some obvious choices and many surprises as well, so without further ado, let's get straight to it. Number 24 is the album Negative Spaces by Poppy. This singer was originally a YouTuber, but in the late 2010s she started to release her own music. Her songs were in the pop music genre at first, but she progressively started to include metal elements in her music. Negative Spaces is Poppy's most metal record to date. Its sound is a mix of alternative metal, metalcore, electronic rock and pop music. There is a great range in the album between aggressive metal songs like The Center's Falling Out and softer songs like Crystallized, which demonstrates the versatility of the musician. Negative Spaces features a good modern production by Jordan Fish, the former keyboardist of Bring Me the Horizon. The riffs in the album are reminiscent of the riffs of early 2000s metal bands, so you can feel a bit of nostalgia while listening to this album. If you are a metal purist, a pop star doing a metal album is probably not going to be your cup of tea, but if you are an open-minded metal fan, you might like this album. This release is a good entry point in metal music for someone who doesn't generally listen to heavy metal. Number 23. I'm glad I waited after the end of last year to do this top 24 because this record was released at the very end of 2024 and I feel that it deserves a place in this list. It is The Dead Don't Die by the German band Dominum. The concept of this formation is inspired by horror and gothic elements. The band members notably wear makeup and masks that give them a zombie appearance. The songs in The Dead Don't Die feature some melodic vocals and catchy choruses. They also feature a standard verse-chorus-verse structure, but they are effective. The album contains cheeky but entertaining lyrics and song titles like Die for the Devil, Can't Kill a Dead Man and Happy Deadly Ending. Also, the release features a good cover of the Scorpion song Rock You Like a Hurricane that is done well in the music style of the band. The album features a bonus second disc of live songs from the previous record by the band, so you can see that Dominum and the label put a lot of effort into this release. If you like the music and the theatrics of the band Ghost, there is a good chance that you will like the album The Dead Don't Die. At number 22, we have Invincible Shield by Judas Priest. It's an album that was present in many people and publications' top albums list of 2024. It was notably declared the number 1 album of the last year by the websites Ultimate Guitar and Brave Words, and declared the number 2 album by the magazines Metal Hammer and Loudwire. Judas Priest is certainly a formation that ages very well. While many bands from the same era rely heavily on their older material, the new releases by the British quintet don't pale in comparison to the classic albums by the formation. Invincible Shield is an example of that. This one features a good vocal performance by Rob Halford, who is now 73 years old, and it contains a good production by Andy Snape, the touring guitarist of the band. The slick guitar work in Invincible Shield is also something that deserves to be mentioned. Even though it would be great if KK Downing would reintegrate Judas Priest, it can't be denied that Richie Faulkner offers a great performance here. If for whatever reason Invincible Shield ends up being the last Judas Priest album, the band would end on a good note. Number 21, with a runtime of approximately 27 minutes and a half, You Won't Go Before You're Supposed To is one of the shortest albums in this top 24, but it more than compensates the short runtime with highly energetic songs. This record is a non-stop thrill ride with almost no breaks. It received the rave reviews. Reviews in the websites Kerrang and The Guardian gave this album a perfect score of 5 stars out of 5. When you listen to You Won't Go Before You're Supposed To, one of the first things you will notice is that the singer Brian Garris has a high-pitched voice. It can take some time to get used to it, but eventually his vocal style can grow on you. In addition to this singer, the two guitarists of Knock Loose perform backing vocals in a style that is closer to death growls, so you have an interesting dynamic between the two vocal styles in the record. As a cherry on top, You Won't Go Before You're Supposed To features two high-profile guests, Chris Motionless of Motionless in White on the track Slaughterhouse 2, and Poppy, who was mentioned earlier on the track Suffocate. The number 20 in this list is an album that was reviewed last fall on this channel. It is The Surface Seems So Far by Seether. If you are interested to know more about this album, I encourage you to check out this particular review. The Surface Seems So Far is one of the heaviest releases in Seether's discography. Some songs like Judas Mine and Illusion have a type of heavy and bouncy guitar riff that is reminiscent of the nu metal era of the late 90s and early 2000s. On the album there are also more screams and harsh vocals compared to the previous releases by the band. While listening to Sean Morgan's vocals, you can feel some raw emotion that doesn't feel faked. Morgan, who is the leader of this band, handled the production for the album, and the sound of the record suits the material well. It is not too polished and not too raw. In many tracks in The Surface Seems So Far, you can hear that the band members were inspired by the music of Deftones, but managed to make the sound of the songs their own. Being a Seether release, the album also contains a number of softer songs that can be played on rock radio stations. Number 19. While Slayer has apparently stopped releasing new material, Kerry King has released a new album from IIII under his own name. For this release, King has assembled a killer lineup of musicians. You have Paul Bostaph of Slayer and Impellitteri, of course, Carl Sanders of IIII, Phil Demel, formerly of Machine Head, and Mark Osegeda of Death Angel. Although it is Kerry King's name on the album cover, the album really feels like a group effort, and this is where the strength of the record lies. While listening to this album, it feels that the different members of the lineup bring something to the table. When starting the record, you will notice that the first riff of the first song, Diablo, sets the tone right away for the rest of the album. The material in From Hell I Rise is pretty much a continuation of the last Slayer album, Repentless, and although the Kerry King material is not as strong as the Slayer material, it comes pretty close. The album cover and the subject of many songs can be considered a bit cliché, but From Hell I Rise is a very good release nonetheless. One thing that is certain, even though Kerry King is now in his 60s, he shows no sign of slowing down. So that was the first of 4 rounds of albums for this top 24 of the year. This series will get more and more interesting as we get closer to the top 15, top 10, top 5, and eventually number 1 record of 2024. If you like one or many of the albums presented today, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more metal and hard rock related content. Thanks for watching this first part of the series, and stay tuned for the next one, which will probably be released next week. Cheers!